I want to welcome back everybody to FTC Insights in 30. I'm your host, Justin Muscolino, CEO of the FinTech Training Center. Today, we're going to be discussing one of the fastest changing industries that we have in financial services. Yes, you guessed it, payments. From instant payments and embedded finance to AI, digital wallets, and cross-border innovation. Listen, the payment system continues to change at an incredible pace. So, with that being said, joining us today is Jeroen van Dijk. He's going to discuss these changes and what we could do about it. So, Jeroen has spent more than 25 years helping shape the global payments industry. Currently, he is managing partner of the Payment Genes Academy and co-founder of Amsterdam-based Payment Genes Consultancy. There, he works with banks, fintechs, payment providers, and a lot more to help develop the skills and knowledge for payments. Jeroen, welcome to the show today. It's great to have you.
It's a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me, Justin.
So, we're going to get right to it. So, first question, and this is kind of at a high level. You've been in payments for a little while, we'll say. How has the industry changed the most since you first entered it way back when?
Yeah, traveling in time, we go back to the last millennium, Justin, back to 1997. Uh, in those days, the internet got just started. So imagine a world with hardly no internet. So
Wow.
looking at payments in those days, banks owned payments. You had ATMs. They became normal in those days, but point of sale terminals in stores just got started. So you could get money out of the wall, but paying in a store digitally was brand new in those days. In the Netherlands, where I come from, we paid with guilders. They're no longer existent. If I wanted to go on holiday with my friends to Spain, for example, I had to go to the bank to get pesetas. And okay, yes, I could use checks if I wanted. If I wanted to make a bank transfer, I paid with an accept gyro that took ages to process. And everything was in store, no internet. We just got started with the war on cash. So, did anything change? Back
Yeah,
to you.
I would say a little bit. Yeah. I mean, we did have color TV. We did have the microwave, but it does go pretty far back. So, next up, do you think we're entering like another big transformation similar to what we saw in digital banking?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think, in all honesty, it will be hard to beat the impact of the internet. That changed everything and evidently has created a completely new ecosystem. But I have no doubt that agentic AI will be way more impactful than we thought the Internet of Things
Mhm.
would be. Way more impactful. So yes, I do feel we're at the brink of a new era. Absolutely.
All right. Now, with fintechs, right? Like we work with them all the time, and there's a lot that they know, and there's a lot that they don't know. So, like a lot of the fintech founders, they usually focus very heavily on building products, but they don't really understand the ins and outs of payments. And like from your perspective, what are the biggest misconceptions that you're seeing today?
Uh, at first, or what I want to emphasize is that I do endorse the product first strategy that many challengers have adopted. I think that is fundamental and crucial. So you need to build a really good product to have impact in the first place. So that the challengers do that, yeah, good for them. To the banks who they challenge, I would say, banks, you guys need to compose the best possible product, but do it modularly. Partner, stop making it yourself. Buy, partner, compose. You have the customers, you have trust, you have capital those are assets, but you are being challenged seriously. To their challengers, I would say, yes, product first, build the best product you can. That's where it all starts. But don't forget sales. Don't forget your go-to-market strategy. Even the best product doesn't sell itself. And then if you enter the vibrant world of payments, be aware of regulation, of compliance, of risk, of fraud. There's so much complexity. So it starts with a product, but it is only the beginning.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because as fintech founders or folks that run fintechs in general, they usually forget about the important parts, the operational side, of course, the regulatory side. And I've seen that a lot. So thanks, John. That was a great answer. But I want to switch to, what we talked about in the intro about instant payments, embedded finance, and kind of like what's next. So, like I've been reading the news a lot lately, and there's been so many new developments around, real-time payments, embedded finance, open banking, oh, and digital wallets, I can't forget. So, what innovations do you believe will have the biggest long-term impact, based on what I mentioned?
Yeah, and for now, if you allow me, I will ignore agentic commerce. We
Yeah.
will get back to that a bit later. So, what I would say, and certainly from the perspective here in Europe, where I'm located, that the account-to-account rails is having a lot of traction, and that is driven by regulation, by open banking. You refer to it already, and I will get back to that. I think we cannot underestimate the relevance and the importance of regulation, which brings trust to the ecosystem. And without trust, it all collapses, right? So we often oppose the regulators, but they are there for a reason, and we need them. We need each other. With open banking, they have also facilitated new entrants and more relevance for account-to-account payments. And you also see geopolitics hitting the globe. I'm sure across the pond you are aware of Europe's challenge to become slightly less dependent on you guys in America. And I think you guys know the example of the new product, account-to-account based Wero, that is taking on the challenge to compete with the schemes who are predominantly from the US. So account-to-account, challenging the guardrails is certainly very important. And next to that, we see, driven by technology, digital assets hitting us. And I think a very interesting use case for digital assets will be the instant settlement aspect. So imagine very expensive, complex cross-border payments, high ticket value, take ages to settle, high risk, very expensive. And with digital assets using blockchain technology, those payments will become flawless instant. I think that is a massive opportunity that will be impactful.
That's a good answer. And, it brings me to another thought, which is off script, like about fraud, and instant payments. Now, fraud is to me like more prevalent today than it ever has before. So with the new technologies, and we're going to talk about agentic AI soon, what kind of tools are there for folks to, stop fraud in its tracks or, deal with the repercussions shortly after?
Yeah, so it's good that you bring up the topic of fraud, and let me try and put it in a slightly different perspective. So when it comes to payments, we already touched upon it. The dynamics are complex, and players in the payments arena, they constantly perform a balancing act as a payment service provider, also as a merchant, trying to sell as much as you can. There's this constant balancing act between optimizing conversion, optimizing your revenues, your top line, but you need to balance that with risk
Yeah.
your risk appetite, and also with the topic you mentioned, with the related fraud. And that is very impactful. And fraud is here, it's here to stay. And one of the first use cases of AI is to commit fraud. And now one of the use cases of AI is to prevent fraud. But it started with opportunities to do fraudulent transactions. And I think that balancing act in generic terms is very important. And let me add a bit another perspective to it. So being successful in payments is driven to a large extent by what users like, what they expect. How you pay is what you determine and no one else. And you need to facilitate that when you enter the payments arena. And also your business customers, they nowadays expect a B2C experience, if you will. So user experience for every party in payments is key, and that will determine which of us ends up in the overcrowded cemetery of payments products and payments companies. And it's very busy on that cemetery. Be warned.
Thank you, Jeroen. I like that. Now, going back to AI, because it's being talked about everywhere. Like when you talk about technology, everybody thinks or associates that with AI. Now, with payments, AI is, a big part of it. So how do you see AI influence like the future of payments from where it is today?
Yeah, and I heard it before. The future, Justin, is now. So it's
Mm,
happening already. And we discussed before that AI supported fraud, but it now also supports fighting fraud and it supports managing risk. So it has many, many use cases. But what is happening already today is agentic commerce. It's here today. And that means that we are now using AI to recommend us and to assist us when we make purchases. You can use GPT and ask you to select a product for you today. And what is happening really really soon is the transformation from agentic commerce to agentic payments, where
mm,
AI will transact on your behalf and even orchestrate your future payments autonomously, not only as a consumer but also as a business, as an enterprise. So the impact will be massive. And be mindful also as an enterprise merchant, agents are not biased. They're
mm.
not sympathetic or loyal to your brand. I personally, I like to drive a Volvo. I attach value to that brand. But when I request my AI agent to make a purchase on my behalf, and I share with my AI agent my requirements when it comes to driving, unless I say it needs to be a Volvo, then the likelihood of it choosing my brand will be very low. Hence, merchants need to adjust to agents making purchases on our behalf. That will be very challenging and impactful.
So I was just going to bring that up too, like your fears of AI right now. And you mentioned a few, but if you could expand on it, just that's the part I want to focus on because, confidence is a big thing when it comes to AI and leveraging it, right? What are your biggest fears?
Yeah, so not as a professional, but as a person, yeah, I have a relation with agentic AI, and I remember being in Asia some 10 years ago at a conference, and we were talking about serendipity. Will AI become conscious? Will it become conscious of itself? And if you allow me to be philosophical for a moment, there's this philosopher from Germany called Friedrich Nietzsche, and he's often misquoted, but he had a concept which was called the Übermensch, and it was misused in the Second World War. But his vision was that we are in transition on this globe, and humankind is only a pre-stage of something that will be way more intelligent than we are as human species. So what will be the next thing above mankind? And that is my deepest fear, in all
Yeah.
honesty, that it will be agentic AI with an IQ where maybe, I don't know, maybe I have an IQ of 120, or I don't know, and soon agentic AI will have an AQ of 1500.
Mm.
I feel that is pretty scary, in all honesty.
It is. I mean, because the thoughts in everybody's head, like, well, what is that going to do to me, right? Am I going to have a job? Am I going to have to change careers? So a lot of those thoughts come up too, and hopefully, it's at a good place as we go forward. Um, but Jeroen, thank you very much for joining today and sharing. It was great. One of the biggest takeaways is that, payments have become a lot more complex, and it's more than just simply moving money. So for our listeners, thank you for joining us. This was a great episode with Jeroen, and please come back for our next episode, which we'll hold soon. Thank you very much for joining, and thank you, Jeroen, for your time today. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thanks.